Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
Well, welcome to another edition where we celebrate Black history, specifically with Black books, Black authors, and Black subjects. Well, we want to know, how is it that we can make it more available for people to be able to hear our story from our own mouths? Today, we've got a guest who has created just what we need. And she's right here in my hometown, Chicago. The Soulful Chicago Book Fair highlights Black authors from all across the country and even some overseas to tell our story in our voices. And this is critical because there's so many people who talk about us who don't know anything about us and have never talked to us. So the stories that we've often had used in, whether it's the grammar schools or high schools or even colleges, have been stories written by other people. And now we have an opportunity to write them ourselves. So we're going to meet Asadah. And we're going to find out more about how you, if you're an author, how you can, in fact, be a part of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. It comes along every year, and it also provides a way for people to meet those authors and find out more about our story, because it's not just his story, it is our story. And I know we are both readers and writers, so we can really appreciate what Asadah has done and bring on a fabulous event several times a year so that many of those authors that don't get a chance to be heard can be introduced to the world stage. So without further ado, let us bring on my dear sister, Asadah.
Woo! Hey, moms.
How are you?
Loving life. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm excited because as soon as I met her, and I can't remember how we met. You know how it is when you meet somebody, it seems like you just always knew them, and you can't remember how you met, but just such a familiar soul. Well, as soon as I learned about the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, we've made sure we've been there every year to highlight these authors. And I think after we met, and then after that, I said, you need your own platform. So, of course, she's part of the Female Solution family, coming on every Tuesday with Gathering of the Griots, which, of course, you know, a griot is a storyteller. But
can I ask?
Yes, go right ahead.
Who, what, when, where, why, how? Tell us about the Soulful Book Fair. When is it? Why? Where is it? And
how long has it been there?
How long has it been there? And how can we do something if we're not in Chicago? How can we support this if we're not in Chicago? All those questions.
Well,
before we get to those questions, let me give you a snippet of the book fair.
Okay.
And then we'll give her a chance to answer all those questions.
Sounds good to me.
Look, here we go. Wait a minute, let me make sure you get the full effect. There we go. Chicago.
Soulful Chicago Book Fairs are the most exciting Black book fairs on the planet. Born in July of 2016, Soulful Chicago Book Fairs have both increased the literary marketplace for Black writers and given lovers of Black literature places to find books about the Black experience the world over. The main summer book fair stretches 4 city blocks on 61st Street between Cottage Grove and King Drive. Each block is characterized by its own genre. donning the works of fiction authors, nonfiction authors, and children's authors. The day begins with a procession of elders atop a float, demonstrating the book fair's honoring of community elders. The entertainment of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair has been second to none. Audiences travel to its Grammy-level stage, which has featured musical artists such as Eric Roberson, King, and many of Chicago's multicultural talents. The book fair's community stage sits equidistant from either end and showcases puppet shows, open mic sessions, and author talks for festival goers to enjoy.
That bought homes or provide an economic foundation.
Aspiring authors have enjoyed the Soulful Chicago Book Fair's lineup of helpful workshops on publishing, writing for children, and legalities of the publishing industry and more. From its exhibitors to its entertainment, its workshops, to its overall power, Soulful Chicago Book Fairs will continue to breathe literary life and prosperity into the South Side of Chicago for decades to come.
So there you have it.
And I was getting upset like I had missed it, but 2016, I had already moved to Florida. So that's why I have missed it.
Yeah,
no problem. We have it coming up again, August 9th. And it's the life of it has been amazing, just to answer some of your questions, particularly being in a different place to live. The book fair has been so magnanimous and so impactful that we've had authors fly in for the event as far away from as Japan, Canada. During the pandemic, had to find a way to do the book fair since we weren't allowed to do anything outside. And so I put the book fair in the metaverse. And so that's where you go and experience a society inside the computer. And people were walking around talking, their avatars, and people from other countries were able to sell their books. But hey, they made their way to fly into Chicago to experience the actual event. And so it's one of those events now. I heard somebody in New York was like, you got to go to Chicago's event. Chicago is jamming. I was like, ooh, they talk about us. Ooh. So anyway, we got a good little reputation going about what the book fair is, what it does. That video answered some of the questions that you did present. But if there are others, maybe where it's going, what it's for, you'll see another video in a bit to kind of understand what our mission is. But did your questions get answered from that video?
Yes. I'm assuming that the website there is a place where we can get a list of all the books and all the authors that are out there. Especially now, we've got to remember about supporting Black businesses, and that includes Black authors. So we'll have to make sure that we keep that website up so that people will know where to go to support our people who are writing our stories. And I'm actually going to send, when we're done, I'm going to try to send this out to a friend of mine who's in the middle of writing a children's book that
wonderful.
is actually, she's one of my favorite people, as well as one of my favorite writers, and she's very talented. And so I've been doing some of the initial editing for her draft.
I love it.
And it's
and also, I wonder if you're familiar with urban intellectuals. They would be very interested in investing.
Yeah, and it's a historical fiction book, and I that's a genre that I really started to love, is historical fiction.
Okay.
Because it takes a person who actually was there, and you just kind of tell their story, but you tell it in a way that is accessible to us. So, there's history and there's fiction, but you learn about the subject. And this is about I don't want to give too much about it, but this is about a boy who was sold into slavery from the North.
Okay.
And he was freed, and he was more or less, his parents thought that he was going to work for people, and he was actually being sold. Him and other children were being sold, kidnapped and being sold.
Wow.
And
there was a lot of that was actually going on, especially because of the fugitive slave law. And you had, the thing that was appalling is that you had participants in the North that were capturing people who had been freed, and for a price selling them back to slave owners in the South. And so, sometimes, because I've moved down here to Florida, I have gone through the culture shock of the kind of thinking that Southerners have. But then the shocking thing is that you have that same attitude in the North. It's a little more subtle, but
it's global
on all aspects.
Yeah, and
it's global. And I wanted to say, in terms of the book fair itself, what I know is that we have so many stories up our sleeves. Oh my goodness, from history to present to future. And like Naima was saying in the intro, who tells the story though? And it's like the book fair's purpose is to make sure that we tell the stories about ourselves. We cover, each block is a different genre for a reason. So you have a nonfiction block, you have a fiction block, you have a children's block, so that people can go and find what they're looking for per genre and get the story from the horse's mouth, baby. You don't have to worry about somebody else's interpretation of us. The key is to get your work out there. And this stage of the game, this is when authors are actually registering. So if an author is interested in being in Soulful Chicago Book Fair, they should go to the website, soulfulchicagobookfair.com. And there's a button that says author submission. So that's this part. And then in a second phase, you'll start to see the author's books in our store, so that people can not only buy them at the event, but they'll be able to buy them from our website as well, and be able to connect with them. So it's giving a platform to those of us that are writers. A lot of other arts get promotion, dance, fine art, painting, whatever. But the writers don't really get the same level playing field or exposure. So that's where I come in. You hear my accent, maybe. I'm from New York. So New York is about fanfare and Apollo Theater and Broadway. And so Chicago's not about that. Chicago is about, we are good writers, and that's all you need to know. But my thing is, now it's time to put it on stage so that everybody can flourish from this endeavor.
Yes.
That's so exciting. I'm feeling all excited, and I'm not even there.
Well, we do have our book coming out, and I've noticed that over the years, a lot of authors will time the finishing of their book to make sure they can participate in the Chicago Book Fair.
Absolutely.
Because it's coming, so I got to finish up my book so I can have it printed and ready so I can be at the book fair, and that's a good incentive. So I think, with our book, Growing Up Charles, we need to plan on being at that book fair.
Yeah, we have quite a few books debuting. I have 2 books debuting there myself for August 9th, and we'll talk a little bit about those to come. But when I came out with my first book, there was a book fair in New York, and I made that my goal date. And so, Lord, thank goodness. It's like if the book fair was July 16th, that Saturday, I got the books in the mail on Friday. And so meant for me to be there. So yeah, definitely use it as a goal and debut at the book fair for sure.
Yes. Well, let's see. We've got some viewers here, and our good old sister Deborah says, "Greetings, history makers. I just saw a play about historical fiction, A Fall from Royalty. And I know that must have been interesting." And she, of course, Deborah, one of our hosts, also, and an avid reader, and she says directed by Richard Galton. You know, a lot of times books do become movies, and that's what a lot of writers even thinking about now. They think in terms of how can I take this book and expand it and make it into a screenplay. And
I wonder if that's a good idea, though. If you're looking to tell a story, I would rather somebody tell the story without trying to market it. It's like the movies that are being made with the idea of making them into video games and toys. The product is about the commercial success and not the integrity of and the quality of the story. I mean, if you're going to tell a story, that's great. I know we last week we all talked about, you know, some of our favorite books that we liked, you know, for this. And of course, one of my favorites is always going to be Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. It's a great book. I don't know if I necessarily think it would translate as well to a movie. Maybe it would, or a play or something, because I think she was just so honest in what she was writing, you know, just telling her story. And if we're going to tell our stories, we shouldn't necessarily worry about how we can make more money other than telling the story as a book, because somebody will buy that if it's good enough or interesting enough to become something else, a play, or like Wicked, for instance, which the book is quite dense and tough to read, but it's got a good payoff. But if someone, I don't think he wrote those books necessarily for the purpose of making it something else. And I think, and we have to fall in love with reading again.
You know, I think there's a misconception that today's young people don't read. And Asadah, you said something a while back which really struck me, because people were talking about young people don't read books anymore, but you were pointing out how just the culture of texting all the time. Tell us about your philosophy about that, as far as today's young people really doing a whole lot more reading and writing maybe than we used to.
Sure. I mean, basically, and I think to your point, Cheryl, you know, in this day and age, you really do have to think of the full package and how the message gets to the different demographics, right? My daughter and her generation, they don't do things the way we did. And I have to accept that. Just like I don't listen to a phonograph. I listen to, you know, a stream or Spotify or something. And so we have to package it in ways that gets the message across. But the philosophy that Naima is talking about is in one of my videos, and we'll see it shortly. It says people talk about how kids today don't read and write, but they actually read and write more than we do because they text. And that's their communication, is sending messages via text. And even if they're using emojis, I go further into a workshop of mine to talk about, well, we come from a history of hieroglyphs. What are you talking about? We've always used symbols to mean things. And so them using symbols and emojis to mean things is a little derivative of being a culture of hieroglyphics and symbols. Even the gangs put up symbols. You know where you at when you look at the wall and you see them symbols. You know where you are. You know, and so I think this concept of overstanding where they are in the process, we just have to make ourselves relevant to the generations that are behind us, so that we can make sure they are getting the messages in ways that are new to them. And like you said, fall in love with reading. Like I said, they do read, but they read what they read the way that they read it. And so my thing is, okay, let me tap into the way that they read things so that they can get it, whether that be Kindle or some other
Yeah.
They have a whole novel website that they go to that helps them read.
Or Audible, even an
Audible, all of that, right?
Some of my students will get an Audible version of the book, and I say, hey, you know what? If it works for you, I'm fine with it.
Sure.
You know, you do, you know, as long as you're getting the information, and that's the important thing. And it's funny because I have a Gen Zer, and she was never a great reader just for pleasure when she was coming up. And I felt like she was discouraged in a way from reading, because when she got into a school, she went to an exam school here in Boston, and they would have summer homework. And but they would give them these books, like they would have the common book that everybody had to read, and then there were these other books that somebody came up, but they weren't all very interesting depending on who the kid, you know, where the kid's experience was. And
this big fat packet.
and seventh grader is not going to necessarily find what a 12th grader would find interesting. That's a huge range, and yet they would all have to do that. Then they said, oh, we're going to make it more fun. We're going to have you write dialectical journals.
Oh, well, you know, I mean, and I don't think anything is too much for our children, but I think sometimes instructors can be a little more creative than they've been. Well, they can make a young person not like words.
This is what I would have suggested. I would have suggested, okay, you're going to read 4 books over the summer. Let's say 3 to 4 books over the summer. For each book, you get to pick the book.
Yeah.
You know, even they can't be all graphic novels, but you can pick something that you find interested and give me a couple of paragraphs on why you liked it. That's enough for a kid to get excited, because when kids are excited about books, they will want to tell you about them or stories, even if it's, you know, and you will find that rather than you picking something for them, who wants to read about the history of cod, which was actually one of the books, one of the years. And so it really turned her kind of off. Now she's 25, almost 26, and she's starting to like reading again. And she'll sit there and say, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And one of the books she just read Cujo, which she thought was like, okay, it's Stephen King. Now she's reading Wicked. And I told her, okay, Wicked's going to be really tough, but stick with it because it's a good payoff. But the thing is that I like that she's now getting into that. But there were those years that were wasted by making it a chore.
And that's the thing that I think we want to change is making reading exciting, making it fun, making it an adventure. Because I mean, my whole childhood was spent in my imagination because of books. And I know, Asadah, you got a whole mission that comes with the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. Well, let's take a look at some of the reasons behind it and what it's evolved to in terms of helping some youth and adults really appreciate the whole world of literature.
Enhance the Black literary marketplace. Bolster training and marketing for Black writers. Archive.
Sorry. Let me bring it back to the beginning. My fault.
Out of the heart of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair comes the Soulful Book Fair Foundation. The Soulful Book Fair Foundation provides programming, training, and literary opportunities for Black-themed writers and their readers, while increasing exposure and access to culturally relevant literature in Black communities. The Soulful Book Fair Foundation is built on 4 pillars. Enhance the Black literary marketplace. Bolster training and marketing for Black writers. Archive Black stories and literary experiences, and foster writing and telling of stories through Black youth. Our signature book fairs have showcased over 350 authors. Still, there are not enough opportunities for Black writers to promote their work. The Soulful Book Fair Foundation helps to enhance the Black literary marketplace and provide avenues for authors to gain exposure and sell their books. Everyone has a story to tell. For those people courageous enough to become authors, we help guide them through the process of building a business around their books. From effectively presenting at events, to maximizing social media.
Learning what Snapchat is, learning what Instagram is, how to use it, how to market to it. So I think that is what made me, I didn't sell out. I think I brought about 80 books, and I sold like 68. So I think that was really, really good.
We offer training and marketing to help Black authors so they can confidently develop fruitful literary careers.
Soulful Chicago Book Fair, be there.
Understanding the past allows one to map out the future. We preserve the stories behind the storytelling of activists, writers, leaders, and youth in the Black community through state-of-the-art videography. Produced by the media partner of the Soulful Book Fair Foundation, OM Productions International. We transform history into our story.
I purchased my first property at 19 years old, and I have done more than 20 deals since then. I can teach you too. Come visit me at the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, July.
Myth. Children today do not read and write as much as we did in the past. Children today actually read and write more than we used to because they post and text as their primary form of communication. The Soulful Book Fair Foundation creates opportunities for young people to share their stories through special workshops.
So in our African tradition, when you have special programs like this, you usually are always begin it with a libation. We pour our shame against our BC. He was recruiting enslaved Africans for 5 years in Charleston, South Carolina, to take over that city.
Hey, Black child, be what you can be. Learn what you must learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow, your nation will be where you want it to be.
I'm speaking the truth. But you call me a radical. You don't want to hear it? Send yourself on a sabbatical. Look at your history. Our labor here was never contractual.
The Tenure D Black Essay Contest provides opportunities for young people from grades 4 through 12 to win prizes for sharing their family histories.
My great-grandmother was born July 27th of 1934 in Mississippi. She moved to Chicago in her early 20s because there was much more broad racism in the southern regions of the U.S.
The Tenure D Black Essay Contest validates their young thoughts and creates a platform for their ideas to be taken seriously. We believe that our children would read more if what they read reflected more of who they are. Why not help them be the authors of their own experience?
Well, I started writing things in my journal, and then I started taking writing classes, and I realized I can put the things that go on in my life into my books, so I can put them in my journal, and I put them into my book.
On these 4 pillars, enhancing the Black literary marketplace, bolstering training and marketing for Black writers, archiving Black stories and literary experiences, and fostering writing and the telling of stories through Black youth. The Soulful Book Fair Foundation is building a literary movement for the ages that is amplifying the voices of Black authors, poets, and even composers, and creating opportunities for them to share their unique perspectives with millions of literary fans across the city and across the world.
Yeah.
In those videos.
Is an excellent time to have that kind of exposure as well.
It is.
And I feel so good because, you know, in those videos and in those images, it's not scamp, baby. You see how many Black people coming out. They say, if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in the book. Well, we sure did have thousands of people in that street.
Yes.
Somebody lying because them Black people out there, you see daddies holding their little girls' hands and seeing us reading to our children. So it's sort of like you got to put it there. Don't be going on these assumptions and myths. We got to put it there. So, you know, I'm just grateful for that I was given this in the download, the spiritual download to do the book fair and to keep this thing growing and emerging because our people not only need it, but we are it. And we need to put ourselves on stage.
And we need to stop listening to narratives of other people tell us. The whole thing about Black fathers, absentee fathers. Black men spend more time with their children than any other demographic. Demographic, more than white men, more than every other demographic. Black fathers are involved with their children, but we like to listen to a lot of those narratives and say, oh, you know, the baby mamas and the baby daddies and these men. That is actually not true. When they've done the research and when they found, when they've looked at what the actual numbers are, Black men, like you said, Asadah, you see them holding their daughters' hands. They are involved with their children.
Yes, that's why we need to tell that story. We need to tell our story because that story is told on us that our fathers aren't involved and our parents are never together and all of that. So it's up to us to tell us about us and not listen to what other people say. Well, you know, speaking of parenting, we want to talk about an issue that is often a very intense disagreement when it comes to proper ways of instilling discipline in children. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Asadah's humongously popular books, been on the TV and radio and debates about it. We're talking about beating Black kids. Should you or should you not? We'll be right back after this quick break. So we want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away, and feel free to write in your comments. We'll share them with our viewing audience, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.
And in case you didn't notice the resemblance, we're also three sisters.
We're going to be coming to you every week, sharing our successes and our mistakes as we navigate our lives as moms, wives, sisters, daughters, and of course, Black women in today's world.
We'll talk about it all: race, politics, religion, economics, culture, and we'll take a look at everything from whether or not to use corporal punishment to how do you teach your children about sex.
Look for our upcoming book, Growing Up Charles. It's a personal story about our lives growing up in Maple Park on Chicago's South Side. I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Three Black Moms.
And we are back.
Black moms.
You know, I really was excited when I saw this book because I really believe that all of us have been deeply traumatized by a very common way of instilling what we hope is discipline our children, but it comes from that slave culture, and so many of us have experienced it. But I'd like you all to take a look at this
and still rationalize you.
Still rationalize it, because we you don't know what you don't know until you know. But I want you all to take a look at this video and see if it kind of triggered you the way it triggered me in terms of some traumatic memories.
I got spanked and I turned out fine. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Kids today need to be beat. What else am I supposed to do? He's so bad. Oh, she gets on my last nerve. Better hush up before I give you something to cry about. It was important that I write the book, Beating Black Kids.
I'm old-fashioned, and I believe, you just can't let a child do anything.
I think it's okay, long you don't abuse them.
It's needed to a certain point.
But what I saw was a collection of adults who were talking about a topic they had never really talked about before. And out came, my mama used to hit me with a spatula. My dad used to hit me with a belt. They used to make me get wet first. They used to put my face in a pillow and then spank me. Like all of these different stories about how we have gotten beaten over time. And while there was a lot of laughter when those stories were being told, I could clearly see that there's a fine line between laughing and crying. And I knew that it was time for me to write a book about handling the situation. And so it's very obvious that this came from being a slave, from a slavery experience. And that whole spare the rod, spoil the child. The shepherd did not beat the sheep with the rod. He guided them with the rod. And so it is just obvious that that came from a slavery experience. And we have to know how to differentiate those things and then just use some discernment in terms of doing what's best for our children and not breaking their spirits. With regards to how we discipline our children, first of all, I always tell people that discipline, if you look at the etymology of the word, it comes from disciplina, which is the Latin root meaning teach. And so when you discipline a child, you are teaching them. But when you use corporal punishment and you hit our children, you're not teaching them anything. They're actually not going to do it again out of fear. They're not doing it out of reason. The frustration that we feel from being powerless in a society and all of the things that come along with that, those issues are not to be taken out on our children when we get home. The definition of domestic violence says bringing harm to someone in your home or hurting someone in your home. So I want us to look at how we beat our offspring and how that's not giving them anything good. It's making them quote unquote obedient, but that's what you make a dog, that's what you make an animal. But when you're dealing with someone of higher intelligence, use their intelligence and start to talk to them in ways that give them power, make them feel supported, listen to their ideas, and it'll just be an easier parenting road for you. There's a part of the brain called the regulatory part of the brain, and that's the part of the brain that helps you make decisions in times of adversity. Well, if they have that toxic stress before they even fall, that part of the brain does not develop.
You know, this.
Did I finish that? Or did I cut it
Yeah,
off?
you finished it. It wasn't finished it.
It did. That was the end of it.
No, it was not.
Oh well, let me. I think I might have accidentally hit a button. Let me make sure.
Problem.
And so you're looking at a community full of people with no regulatory equipment. So we need to be bringing a different generation of people up with a different consciousness. Make sure that the kids feel good and alive while they're living. Don't be upset after they die and after there's all these senseless killings. Let's treat them well while they're living, and then we'll see a different impact. The adults want to be upset, but you taught the children the violence when they were young, and it's the tools they have. I feel like, hitting children is such a skillless. We need to foster behavior that builds them up, and that just changes the way, like, we talk to each other. Talk to your discipline, because discipline, we're using it a lot to describe hitting children, and this is not directly to you, LaShawn, but it's to just all of us, because I've heard it and it's personally, and discipline. My book is sold in Switzerland, Germany, Tasmania, Nigeria, Sudan, Canada, all over the world. And so people all over the world are telling me, as far as Germany, that my book is making a difference in the lives of the people that other people touch, but also in the lives of many parents and families who now no longer beat their children because they read my book. A lot of people ask me if I'm going to write another book, and I'm not ready to write another book, but what I will say is that there is a high demand for the book in Spanish and in French. My book is not punitive, my book is not accusatory, but there are solutions replete throughout the whole book. It really is just about being engaged with your child. They're not going to become respectful and trustworthy through you telling them and demanding it. They're going to become that way from observing you and then emulating what they see. And so in my parental code of ethics that I wrote, one of my favorite lines is, I will only seek excellence in my child if I am excellent myself. And so that's what I say is the number one key to making sure you have great children is checking yourself.
There we go. All right. And so now let's take a look at what was said.
I need to jump in here.
Yes.
I tell people, and I've said this online many times when this comes up, you know, some of this behavior, like you said, Asadah, is from the slave, you know, that narrative. Listen, folks, nobody's selling your damn kids. Stop beating them. Stop.
You don't have to break their spirit so they don't get.
You're not breaking their spirit so that they will be, you know, good to Massa, and Massa won't sell them down the river. This is not even our culture. I have read several places that in Africa, when they beat their kids, that's from the colonizers who came over there. Europeans did that to their children. We did not, because they felt like that would kill a child's spirit.
And it does.
Now the colonizers bring us over here, kidnap us, and then have us beating our children. And we have adopted that as part of our culture. I did not put my hands on my child because she is a child. If what you would do to a child would put you in jail as an adult, why do we allow ourselves to do that to a child? If you were to smack someone across the face, a stranger or an adult, they could have you put in jail.
But even a dog, if you hit a dog, you're going to jail.
Yeah, you can go to jail for cruelty to animals if you beat a dog.
Animal cruelty. But we think that's okay to do to a child?
That's abusive behavior, actually.
Well, let me just say this. I have a saying that goes, it's time to raise our skills and not our hands to discipline the children. It's just that basic, right? Because when you talk about the origins, you know, where you can find the true origins of Black parenting is in art. What I said about those hieroglyphs, what I said, you got to look at those. I do a workshop, and I did it at a parenting conference in LA, actually. And I had slides that were showing traditional African parenting. You saw the woman sitting with the baby in her lap, suckling on the breast. Ancient Egypt, you saw the child standing next to the pharaoh. Like all of these different manifestations of children being reared peacefully with their parents, and had to show them this is how we documented how we lived. But when you go through slavery and colonialism, and you look at how Black children were treated, right? And you look at what we adopted, like look at the books. If you look at those little golden books, they always had little Black kids playing with animals, like wild animals, tigers, in barns with chicken, never playing with actual regular children. And so there's a sentiment that we began to take of our children. In that same presentation, I showed how they used to come take the baby from the mother and father and take them, never to be seen again, but they would use the Black babies as alligator bait. It's why they used to call Jackie Robinson gator bait on the baseball field. But the bottom and the top line is this. We like to say things like, oh, I need to beat you before the police come and get you, right? And it's very similar. I call it the the beloved syndrome. It's sort of like she saw that master coming down the road, and she went and got her infants and slit their throats before master could come and take them into whatever slavery nonsense he was going to take them into. But it's like, you don't inflict more violence on your young ones because you think they're going to experience violence. And it's a very skewed reality that we need to fix in how we are going to like procure the future. That's what this is all about, working with our young ones so that we can procure the future and make sure that they have all the faculties they need to come up against any negative force, and to make sure that, like I always say, we teach our children how to take authority, but we do not teach them how to be authorities. And by not teaching them how to be authorities, we aren't one in so many circles, but we do know how to take authority. And then usually, because we feel so powerless, as I said in the video, in the real world, we come and exert this power over our families, our children, and it manifests into so many things. It manifests into not only beating them, it manifests into molestation. It manifests into a whole bunch of nonsense that if we just did not violate the bodies of our children. There's some stories in that book, Beating Black Kids. It's stories of others who have hit their children and not, but so important because, like one lady said, because she got beat, it made her more promiscuous because she began to feel like her body wasn't hers and that anybody could violate her body. And so it just translates into a lot of different things that we just don't want for the procurement of the race. We want our children to see us as a place to be consoled, trusted. My daughter's 21 years old. My daughter's first book came out when she was 7 years old. And I've always taught her, no one ever tells you no. No one in the world tells you no. I can't even think of an idea that would support somebody telling you no. I said, if it's a yes for you, you go and get it, right? And so even when I didn't like certain things in her upbringing, I would tell her, so let me help you, or just help me understand why you got so many C's in school. You're making me seasick now. Just talk to me. And then when something didn't go the way I wanted to, I then would ask her, well, let's just make a list. Let's sit down and let's make a list of all the other places you can live. Because if you're going to live with me, them grades got to be tight and this, that, and the other. But if you're not going to do those things, I'm good. But your daddy drive a truck, so maybe I think they got bunk beds in there, so you need to maybe look at that. And then your grandma, we just go through a process of elimination. Where you want to live, Ma? Because if you want to live with me, these are the things that need to take place. And so here's a place of reasoning. A lot of times we don't work with them to help them reason and negotiate well, so they don't do it well in life. And so when it comes to negotiating a salary or saying I'm worth this amount, they don't have those skills because we didn't create them in just their everyday living. And so that's what the book is really about. There are little keys in my book next to every potential solution, ways that you can think, things that you can do so that we can shape and reshape how we're doing our job as parents, because it's no longer good enough to say I'm doing the best I can. No, not disagree. We can do better. We all know we can do better, right? But no excuses and no mistakes, and let's just be civil, just like we would be with each other. I'm into civility with children, and that's what this book is about: being civil with our children, so that they can grow and feel good about who they are.
Yeah, I follow she's a psychologist, I believe. Her name is Dr. Raquel Martin, PhD. She is on Instagram and she's probably on TikTok too. I highly recommend her. And she talks about this. She's got 2 little boys. She teaches down in Tennessee. I think she's in Nashville. And she talks about how Black people want to do this to their children to toughen them up, because the world is tough. And her argument is, your home needs to be the safe space. It can't be the place where you're afraid, because then when something happens, you are opening up your children to be more subject to
abuse,
station, like you said, because they've been taught not to defy adults. And so when an adult will do something and abuse them, they can always convince that child, well, if you tell, you're going to be in trouble. Well, this is a child, and this is what happens. If you provide a safe space so your child can come to you with any problems, instead of feeling like they're going to get beat, they're going to get in trouble, they are less likely to be put in a situation where somebody says, you better not tell or you're going to be in trouble. Because one of the things that I told my daughters, like, adults don't have secret, you don't have secrets
with adults
and dad. I mean, if dad tells you, okay, because he's planning a surprise, that's one thing. But we do not have, and also children do not have adult friends. I know my daughter's friends, but they are my daughter's friends. Sometimes my daughters too. But when you have little kids who suddenly, this guy wants to be your child's friend.
Red flag.
And that's a red flag. And the thing is that we open our kids up to that kind of abuse by making them too fearful,
afraid of us,
to talk to our child, to talk to our parents and say, that person makes me uncomfortable, even if it's your uncle or your this or your dad's best friend or your mom's best friend or whomever. But that's the thing. That's part of that living in fear. We need to stop having our children live in fear of us or fear of anyone else, because we think that that's good, that's obedient, that's discipline.
I want to say really quick, and because I want to clear up this friend. I'm really big on clearing words. As a Scientologist, we clear up words. This word friend, because I am my daughter's friend to a T, but I am not her peer, right? I don't want to be their peer, but the definition of a friend is a person attached to another by feelings of affection or personal regard. Then they say a person who gives assistance, a person who is on good terms with another, a person who is not hostile, a member of the same nation, party, blah, blah, blah. So we actually do want to be our kids' friend, but we don't want to be their peers. And I think when we're teaching them about their communication with others, they just need to understand who are their friends, who are their allies, and who are their peers. And I think at the end of the day, you don't trust people who hit you, even if it's your man. Especially if it's your man. You don't trust no people that hit you. So when your parent hits you, you love your mama, of course. But that doesn't mean that you trust them. And it doesn't mean, I asked one man, he said, well, I got beaten, I turned out fine. Well, first of all, I created an acronym for fine. Because I said, you turned out fine. That's all you're aiming for? But the acronym is failing indefinitely, never emerging. And that's how people turning out fine from being hit as young people. But I also said to this man, he said, I can't turn out fine. I love my mama. I said, yeah, but what were you saying when she was hitting you? He said, oh, I hated her. Right. So that person is still in you, yo. That never got handled. So those latent feelings of resentment and despair and depression and all of that never gets addressed. And we just supposed to chalk it up because I fed you, I clothed you, and all that come with parenting. When you chose to open them legs, baby, that's what you already opened, and you chose to do that. But the stuff that makes them good people, makes them civil, that's important. So,
well, every single male I know that was beaten has anger issues toward women. And I see it in them, and they want to say, oh, I turned out fine, I love my mama. Yeah, but you act like you hate every other woman because that anger at her is coming out at every woman. And that's what I have seen over and over and over again.
Well, what if it's also the father? Because, the mothers were not always the main disciplinarians in the home.
That's true. That's
true.
Well,
what I say to brothers is this. If you hit your daughter, you're showing her that men that love her can hit her.
Yes.
And so they grow up feeling like love is equivalent to being hit by a man. And I've said that to men on the trains of New York, whatever. That's one thing I intercept when I see shenanigans with these parents and the children, but it's never punitive. I put my hand on their shoulder and they could tell I'm with them because I'm not scared of you. You my people. And when I put my hand on their shoulder and say what I got to say, I'm not saying it for the whole train to hear. I'm saying it to you. But when it's women, I say you are shaping the type of women that he's going to choose or not. Because if I was a black man, I might not choose no black woman, because black women kicked my butt my whole life. So, you know, we leave these seeds in them, but we're not sure how they're going to germinate. But if we're making sure that happiness is the key, then that's a different story. Absolutely. I know we only got a few more minutes, so go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've definitely said a mouthful, and we want you to know we're not, you know, beating up black men, because we did say earlier, and one of our viewers, Deborah, said, yes, stand up for our black fathers and dads, because they are doing a great job. And like we pointed out, they are spending more time with our children. Now, you've got another book. Before we go, I want to mention you've got a book coming out also this year, which I think speaks to a lot of the issues with our families, because unfortunately we have had a lot of men who have families who are in prison, and you've put together a fantastic book, you know, collection of stories. Tell us a bit about, you got about a minute before we wrap up.
This book, He's Out, is an anthology, and it's a collection of authors, you guys, that are coming together to tell their different stories, because they have different experiences. But it's called He's Out, Tales of Marriage After Prison. Now, he's out can mean he's out of jail. It could mean that he out the closet because he came out gay. It could mean a whole bunch of stuff, because these stories are varied and they are no joke. But it is, and if you see the little shadow on the floor of that picture, you know, there's so many experiences that these women want to share and want to basically talk to other young women who are, or women in general that are going through this or almost going through this, to know what some of the things they should be looking out for. One woman, her man was in for 29 years. Another sister, her man was in for 40 years. I mean, another sister, her man was in for 54 years. Like, it's serious. This is for real. And they've stuck by these brothers. But anyway, so this is one of the books that will debut when the book fair comes out. The other book that I'm bringing out is called I Had to Choose to Feel Better, because I literally recently just had a stroke and a seizure in this past August. And but I'm going to show how I became better and chronicle what that is, in case people need to make themselves feel whole again.
Yes, well, that is so powerful. Well, of course, we're excited that you have created the Soulful Chicago Book Fair that is coming up. And we want you all to go to the website, soulfulchicagobookfair.com, and keep track of what is up and coming, because we do, in fact, give us that date again.
August 9th is the next date. The only reason you won't see it on the site just yet is because everything has to be cool with the city before we post it. But August 9th is the date that we're aiming for. So put that on your calendars.
Yes, put it on your calendars and get ready, because we are going to have a Soulful Chicago Book Fair this year, and we plan to be there.
That's good. Hopefully with, what is it? Becoming Charles? What is your book?
Yes. Growing Up Charles. So now, y'all, we got a goal to shoot for. So we're going to finish this book up by let's say March. And we get it to a printer in April, and we can have it ready in May, so we can have it there at the book fair this summer. So
I
that's
like it.
Cool. All right, we'll make it happen.
Perfect.
We want to thank you all, and thank you so much, Asadah, for being with us. Watch her every Tuesday on The Female Solution, 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern, on The Female Solution Facebook and YouTube channels, and of course, listen on the On Air Radio Network. She's got Gathering of the Grids. You can meet some of these authors that are going to be at the Soulful Chicago Book Fair. And we hope to be among them, because we're going to be telling y'all all about Growing Up Charles. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can keep track with us and be with us every week on Three Black Moms. And until next week, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Barbara. Thank you, Asadah.
Thank you.
We are 4 Black moms.
Yes, we are.
4.
See you next time.
Peace.
Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're 3 Black moms.